So, how are you guys doing? I think I'm doing pretty swell. This morning has been like the most productive morning I've ever had. It's amazing. I woke up at around 9-ish. I had my to-do list. I had things I wanted to do. I wanted to go for a run. I wanted to practice language learning, and then I wanted to practice the piano, and then I wanted to work on videos. And it is about noon, and I have met that requirement. I've done all my stuff I wanted to do, so this has been a good day, a productive day. It's rare that I have those. Typically, like, one or two of the things I want to do, I want to spend my time doing, I actually do. I'm trying to minimize the amount of time I just spend sitting on a computer just watching YouTube videos, because I realize that's not really productive. So yeah, welcome back to Commander's Cabin. I forget where I just keep talking to make sure that I don't have to bother with any cuts. But today I thought we'd talk about my DNA results. Now, one of my hobbies is ancestry. I like looking at my ancestral history. I know a lot about my family history throughout history, talking like back to the Roman times. Because once you connect it to a royal line, you're pretty much set for all of history. You know where your ancestors are, and you know what they did. Like, I have this German ancestor that was a noble that, you know, kicked all the Jews out of his territory and burned them at the stake. So, that's my family legacy right there. But, you know, at some point I'm like, you know, I wonder what the exact ethnic breakdown is. And I did this a few months ago. This isn't actually a like reaction type thing. This isn't me gonna be, oh no, boo-hoo, I found out I'm part Chinese. I didn't know that, because I've known this stuff for a few months now, so whatever. I can tell you what I expected. I expected a significant portion of Japanese, about 25%. I expected 25% Japanese, 25% English, 25% German, and another quarter of, I don't know, a weird mishmash of stuff that's like Scottish and stuff like that, and Irish. That's not what I got at all. I can trace my ancestry pretty far back, but, you know, ancestry and genetics are a bit different. You might have a quarter of your ancestors come from England, but when you go back to like the 900s CE, they might have been Scandinavian, you know. So I know the nations my ancestors came from. I just didn't know the details. Also, my Japanese side is actually Okinawan. I don't really say Okinawan often because I haven't met a lot of people who could point to Okinawa on a map. They don't know what Okinawa is. I remember I was once in my sociology class, and I mentioned I was part Okinawan because I thought the sociology professor, the doctorate in the study of people, would kind of know, would at least have an idea what an Okinawan is. And then the professor's reaction was, is that a Native American tribe? So I'm like, no. So I tend to say Japanese more than Okinawan, and when it comes down to it, especially in the younger generations, there isn't much of a difference between a Japanese and an Okinawan. But technically, technically I'm Okinawan, and Okinawans are Japanese plus everything else. In ancient times, people from all over Asia and the Pacific ended up in Okinawa. From India to Polynesia, all of them sort of ended up in Okinawa to make the Okinawans. So there's a lot of stuff here in my DNA. What else? Oh, there are other surprising things that I'll get to later, hopefully, if I remember it. I notice I do that a lot in videos. I say, I'll tell you about that later, and I never get around to talking about it because it leaves my mind. Let's see, anything else before we get in there? I did the AncestryDNA test, which I believe is actually more accurate than the 23andMe test. The problem with the AncestryDNA test is that it's really good for white people. So I trust the AncestryDNA results as far as the white part of me goes. Now, as far as anything that isn't white, or specifically East Asian, it does not know what it's doing. It says East Asian, which isn't... That's like just going to a white person getting their DNA test and just getting back, you're white. Well, yeah, I knew that. I wanted to break it down to ethnicities. East Asian isn't an ethnicity. So I went through another program service called WeGene, and it's a Chinese DNA test thing. So what I did was I did the AncestryDNA test, and I could tell which part was my Japanese side, because there's no way, if there's a white person with part Southern Indian. I knew that had to go with the Okinawan. So I did the math, downloaded the raw DNA file, put it through WeGene, and WeGene is more reliable. It's not reliable at all for the white people part, because it said that I was like 50% French. I am not 50% French. But it does get more accurate once you get more to the east of the Ural Mountains, when you get into Central Asia, East Asia, South Asia, that area. So what I have is a amalgamation of those two results when you do the math and figure out, yeah, that makes sense for the Okinawan side, yeah, that makes sense for the white side. So we'll just go through this. So in WeGene doesn't like to admit when it doesn't know something, so we'll break down percentages into like the decimal system. So when you see things with decimals, assume that's a WeGene result. But the largest ethnicity that I am, which I wasn't entirely expecting. Well, one, I wasn't expecting it to be the largest ethnicity. I was expecting it largest, maybe second largest, that sort of area. But I didn't expect it. I guess I kind of expected it to be largest, but I don't know. It was weird seeing it, actually confirmed. But it's also slightly less than I expected. That's 22.5%. Now, when the largest ethnicity you are is 22%, there's going to be a lot of ethnicities in here. So there's a lot of things to break down here. But 22.05% Japanese. That would be my largest ethnicity. Originally, I expected it to be English, German, or Japanese, any of the three. Japanese, 1. I know some idiot's going to be out there like, oh, Radix, you speak Japanese, there's all this Japanese culture stuff, but you're only 22%. And to them I say, kill yourself. Culture and heritage, how you were raised, and, family history is different from biological breakdowns, I guess, I know who I am. These percentages don't... I'm not going to be like... It's not the same thing as, like, those white girls who show up at a bar on St. Patrick's Day. It's like, oh, I'm part Irish. Really? How much Irish are you? Do you know? No? Do you know your Irish ancestors? Did you know an Irish ancestor personally? No? So where do you get off saying you're Irish? Like, oh, man. I'm not going to claim, oh, I'm 2% whatever, I guess I'm going to live my life like that. That ethnicity X or whatever, in that case, I'm 2%, had no role in my upbringing, had no role in my life. That's why I don't really identify with that side. Japanese, on the other hand, I knew my Japanese ancestors. They had a role in my life. I wanted to learn the language. Japanese matters much more than, say, freaking Scottish. Because ain't nobody wearing a kilt in my family, But we do have a few kimonos, so... So yeah, 22.05% Japanese is my largest ethnicity. Then we go down to 19% Scandinavian, sort of the Sweden-Norway area. Which I didn't expect. I suspect that Scandinavian are all people that moved into England once upon a time. Then the third largest ethnicity is 16%, which is Iberian, sort of the Iberian Peninsula, sort of Spanish, Portuguese, that area. And at first that kind of doesn't make sense, what I know about my family history, but when you understand, you gotta understand that a lot of Iberians, a lot of Iberians fled the Iberian Peninsula into England and Ireland back in the day, back during like the Roman and Moorish era, that sort of early history. So a lot of my Irish ancestors might have actually been Iberian, by the looks of it. So that's 16% Iberian. 13%, way lower than I expected it to be. I expected it about to be 25%, but 13% English, which I wasn't expecting. And I certainly wasn't expecting Iberian. I wasn't expecting to be more Iberian than English, let me tell you that. Let's see. 13%, then we go into 9%. And this is what blew my mind, because I thought I'm reading through this. I'm still 25% German, right? Because I know a large portion of my family came from Germany. 9% Eastern European. We're talking about the Poland, Russia area, sort of, which I did not expect whatsoever. I did not know I was that much Eastern European. The Eastern European ancestors I can track down come from like the 1500s, before they moved westward into Germany. So it was really interesting to see. I am more Eastern European, more Polish, Russian, that area, than I am German, which was... And we get to German with 8% Western European. This is German, French, Low Countries area, which would mostly be German, because I really can't trace my ancestry to France or the Low Countries until real old back. But I can trace to a lot of more recent German immigrants. So I have more Eastern European than German in me, which was weird, because before I lived my life thinking I'm about the same amount Japanese, English, and German. Nope. So there's that. 7%, and this is an amalgamation of Irish, Scottish, and Welsh, which is weird because I thought I had a large portion of Scottish and Irish. I thought the mystery quarter was going to be mostly Irish and Scottish, and here we have 7% Irish and Scottish. So, oh boy. So, Scandinavian and Iberian is a more accurate ethnic assumption of my white side than German and English, and with a bit of Irish and Scottish in there, which is... My white side is completely, biologically, not what I thought it was going to be. Then we go to 2%, and that's Finnish. Okay, 2% Finnish. I guess that's where I get my crippling depression from. Then we get to 1.86%, and at this point, we're getting into the WeGene results. So this is on my Okinawan side, because you have all these different Central, South, and East Asians combined to make Okinawans. 1.86% Kyrgyz, as in like Kyrgyzstan. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I had no idea I had any biological ties to Kyrgyzstan, let alone almost 2%. That was interesting to find out, especially with Ultrox's racist rant against the Kyrgyzstanis, or Kyrgyz. I'm sorry, I don't mean to misname my own ethnicity. Man, Ultrox, you gotta watch yourself. That's a reference to a tweet Ultrox made once upon a time, you know. If you're not following Ultrox on Twitter, what are you doing? Then, going down to 1.23%, this is also on my Okinawan side. 1.23% Indian, as in the Indian subcontinent, that sort of stuff, which I wasn't expecting either. I did not know. Honestly, I expected more Chinese and Korean to sort of mix into there with the Japanese side. I didn't expect a lot of South Asian and Central Asian, but you know, that's how it be. Okay, now we're getting to less than 1%. 0.38%, I don't know. It's unknown. We couldn't track down that 0.38%. But 0.21% is Bengali, which is basically Indian. So, yeah, I think Ancestry.com displayed it as 2% Indian. But WeGene broke it down to Indian and Bengali. Now we get to 0.13%, and that's 0.13% Sha. And Sha is a Chinese ethnicity. If you know anything about China, you know it's broken down into multiple ethnicities. There's not one Chinese ethnicity. Typically when we think Chinese, we think Han Chinese. It turns out I'm 0.13% Sha, which is sort of around the Fujian area, sort of near Taiwan, which makes sense, because that's where Chinese people would be immigrating into Okinawa from. Which, let me tell you, as a little Japanese nationalist, knowing I have a little bit of Chinese, even if it's less than 1%, is like, ah, man. 0.07%, and this is on the Okinawan side, and that's Melanasian, which is sort of like the Papua New Guinea area. They had to come into Okinawa at some point too, so 0.07%. So basically nothing Melanasian, but whatever. And then the final one is 0.07%, and this is actually on my white side, because it wouldn't make sense for it to be in the Okinawan side. But it's not white, it's Senegalese, you know, in Western Africa. So, you know, someone had a slave at some point. But 0.07% black, I guess. Sub-Saharan African. Alright. So, that's the DNA breakdown here. If anyone wanted to know, I was curious, so I spent $100 on it. I do think it's interesting to know that stuff. Interesting to know that I'm not as English or German as I thought I was. Interesting to know that the largest ethnic group is Japanese in me. But it's all interesting. Have you guys had a DNA test? Let me know your results in the description. I also not in the description. I keep saying that. I always say in the description. It's in the comments. But let's see, anything else. I also took the raw DNA to look at some single nucleotide polymorphisms and their alleles to see if you could trace down any of my personality to my genes. Turns out you can. Also a lot of health issues. I'm good on the cancer and diabetes front, you know, I have a lot of immunities to that. It's just I'm going to die of a heart problem. So, that's good to know, I guess. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I should be recording a main channel Commander Radix video soon, if I can bother myself to do that. But yeah, thank you guys for coming out, and see you guys next time.